Welcome to Geeks Plus Comics. How are you doing, Geeks Collective? We are more than just your average geek, and I am Cross, your host here at Let's Talk Comics. Sitting down with an old friend of ours who was on the show before. Although last time he was here, we had a different lick of paint on everything, a different looking setup for him. But we are so proud to have Bruno Catarino back on the show with us to talk about more of his amazing comics that are out on Kickstarter, because this man just keeps working and just keeps dropping stuff apparently. But Bruno, thank you so much for coming back on the show. Thank you so much for coming to talk with us again. It's a pleasure to have you back, sir.
Yeah, thank you for having me. And thanks for having me again. Yeah, it's nice to be here. And about keep working, it's really just a matter of too long making stuff and not actually releasing anything. And then when you start releasing things, it's everything at once. So
everything just drops at
it's
one
actually
time.
the product. Right?
That's awesome. But again, as well, thank you for coming on, Bruno, and thank you for fitting us into your schedule. You're obviously a busy man, and then of course we have a bit of a time difference between us, you being over in the UK, me being on the East Coast in the US, and I'm glad we could make this work for today to sit and talk about this.
Yeah, same. Thank you.
For anyone who's watching, like I said, we have talked with Bruno before. I'll put a little link in the card up in the corner. If you want to click on that, go and check out our previous interview where we talked about Bruno's last Kickstarter. You want to hear what he said about that comic, go and check it out for bereavement. But we are back with some more sci-fi stories today as Scinematic Figments. I don't know why, but processing those words because of the spelling for them, my brain has to take a minute, because it's not cinematic like, oh, cinematic. It's like cinematic, like SCI at the start, like sci-fi, because it's science fiction stories. And you've released a brand new Kickstarter where you're dropping not just one issue, but the first two issues of Scinematic Figments. And even at that, it's an anthology series. So for these two issues, people are actually getting 4 stories, which is just absolutely phenomenal to be putting together to send out there. So can you tell us a little bit about Scinematic Figments?
No, no, I'm kidding.
No, need to go. Just go pick it up and trust us. It's fine.
Yeah, just buy. Cinematic Figments is more like those stories that were too small, or in fact, because I started writing for film, TV, that sort of stuff, I actually had these planned as short films, but Parasites, for example, it's one of the examples of the stories. But was too expensive to make as a short film, and when I started writing comics, I just thought, you know what, I'm gonna do it now. I can do it as a comic, and budget is no different than 2 talking heads for the entire time. Well, sort of. It's similar. So yeah, I'm just going to tell this story now, and that's kind of what happened. So yeah, it's just a collection of sci-fi stories. Those were the first ones that I got done. I wanted to release this as a larger book initially, but multiple teams, people work at different speeds.
Yeah.
I had several of the stories already done, still waiting for a couple of stories. Some issues with one of the stories. It's already the 3rd artist working on it, because things just didn't work out, and he's doing an amazing job now, the new artist on that story. So it's not in any of these books now. It's going to be on an issue 3.
Awesome.
But at some point I just realized, okay, you know what, I'm tired of waiting. This was the first project I started working on before the pandemic, was that long. So I just thought, you know what, I'm just going to release it as smaller books. I know how to do that. I've done 3 before. So let me just do that. And so each book has a couple of stories. That's it. It's just they are kind of thematically linked in a way. Well, not so much thematically, but more in terms of the mood between issue 1 and issue 2. They kind of have the same mood in the same issue, and then they are a little bit different, 1 and 2, but yeah, it's kind of different stories by different creative teams, and yeah, that's it. Just
Yeah, I think
sci-fi.
that's probably a great description of it. Like, it's the story's very much, obviously there's definitely similar themes there to them because they're all kind of science fiction related. They're all kind of pushing boundaries with stuff like that. But the mood of them is hard to describe. Having read the issues, it's hard to describe. But like, they have the same mood and emotion, and they kind of evoke similar stuff within you. As you're reading through them, even though they're four like completely different stories, they're not like continuations or like two-parters, three-parters. They're all like standalone short stories, but they really do kind of make you feel a certain way and get you in a certain frame of mind, which is awesome. And they all have a different kind of look to them as well, as you mentioned. Like, you have different creative teams, and if I'm correct, it's a different creative team on every story. So like, it's you do the writing, you do the storyboarding of it and stuff, but like everything else, like, it's a completely different team on each story.
Yeah, even the storyboarding, I didn't really do that. I just did the writing. So each team, they would basically be doing the layouts, the sketches as they were working, and yeah, I mean, it was great because I got to work with different. Like I said, it was my first project, so my first project, I got to work with many different teams. I got to see many different ways of people, artists work, and that was actually really good as a school of making comics because I got to understand. Oh, okay, not everybody works the same,
Yeah.
so that was actually quite nice. Yeah, it's a lot easier now to adapt to, an artist and knowing, oh, you work that way. Okay, fine. Whatever you need. Uh, just being able to adapt a little bit to how the artists work. And I feel like I'm not answering your question.
No, you are. It's just getting my gears turning a little bit. Sorry. So, what was the process like then for getting the teams for this? Because like, it would have been very easy to kind of just get one artist and go, okay, you're doing these four different stories. But like, you've intently gotten different artists, different creators, different people involved in these. What was the process behind that, and what was the thinking behind getting a different person for each book? And then, like, you kind of touched on there, like, what were some of the challenges? And because you're trying to put together these issues to come out, obviously, and especially like, okay, it's one thing to have issue 1 and issue 2 be different stories and different artists, but you've got a whole issue to come out, and you've got two different stories with two different creative teams working together, and then you decide to do the crazier step and say, I'm going to put out 2 issues with 4 different creative teams behind it and have to juggle all of that together for one Kickstarter. So what was the kind of thinking behind that, and what were some of the challenges you faced with that?
I mean, on that part, it was easy because I was planning to do it as a one thing, right? So the issue was really that was to be able to have 6 creative teams come together and just finish around the same time. I mean, all the artists that I worked with were amazing. Well, there's the case that I mentioned that it was never finished, but that aside, um, all the artists were amazing, and they had different, they just had different speeds, which is normal, and
Yeah.
how it is with this, let's call it business, is that a lot of people don't live off making art. They have their day jobs, so they
Yeah.
are doing this on the side. So obviously they cannot commit as much time as someone who actually does it full time. So uh, you know, some of those delays are very understandable.
Yeah.
So it's not like people got delayed because they were lazy or anything like that. Not that at all. It's just life gets in the way. Um, and how I found the different people was really um, Facebook groups are very good for this. There's like Facebook groups that you can find artists, connect with artists, and that's probably the only reason still keeping me in Facebook. because it's the groups are really good. You can find really amazing artists there, and yeah, so that's how I found them, all on Facebook. How Why to have different artists is really because, well, going into this, I wanted the stories to feel cinematic and to have like this kind of realistic kind of feel. And sorry, I think styles do have a bit of a realistic style in a way. Um, Even the ones that are a little bit more comic book typical, they are very detailed, very yeah. There's quite a lot in each panel, so they are very they very much have like a complex cinematic look. So that's kind of what I wanted to do. So the challenge was finding artists who gave you that,
Yeah.
like that cinematic style, and that I could afford. So that was one of the challenges for sure. But yeah, after finding the artists, yeah, I mean, some delivered relatively fast, others took a little bit longer, different processes. Uh, but ultimately, the goal was to release a single book. So having four different stories is not really a problem because it's still a simplification of what I had before.
Yeah.
So this was really like a way for me to just say, enough is enough. I'm tired of, waiting and talking about this book. I've been talking about this book for like 4 or 5 years.
Yeah.
I released 3 other books, before this. I have 2 others coming. I really didn't want to just leave this any longer. And yeah, it just made sense. I mean, uh, yeah, just there was those old magazines before that was kind of like this, right? You had like multiple stories. Uh, yeah, so it was kind of doing that. It was like this sort of, I don't know, pulpy kind of uh, thing where you have, a simple comic. It just happens to have more than one story, like a side A and a side B.
Yeah.
Like in old records, that sort of thing. So yeah, that was kind of it. I don't know. I'm
No,
rambling. Stop me.
no, you're all good. You're all good, Bruno. But yeah, I think it's a really intriguing thing to see because like you do still get anthologies and stuff out there as much, but like I feel like in the comic book world they're not as prevalent as maybe they once were. You used to get a lot more kind of anthology stories, and there's still some great ones out there that are focused on doing anthologies and shorter stories and stuff. But to do this in a kind of sci-fi world and just take it is it's a brave thing to do because especially when you're doing something on Kickstarter, because usually you're trying to get people hooked on a story and you're trying to get people hooked on a concept, and then once that first issue's out, usually it's like, okay, well, here's issue 2 and here's issue 3, and this is like you're along for the ride on a reoccurring story.
Yeah, I mean, brave or stupid, right?
Two sides of the same coin most of the time, I think, Bruno. This is speaking from experience, It's like brave or stupid, a bit of both, it's how it works usually.
Yeah.
But, it's a big thing to ask people to invest in this and say, like, okay, these are stories that are all different from one another. Because it's a challenge to you as well as the writer, because, like, there's always going to be stories that resonate with people more than others. Like, people are always going to gravitate to certain stories more than others. People are going to be like, that's my favorite. Well, no, that's my favorite. I like that one. But it's still a challenge for you as a writer to say, like, I want all of these at the same level of quality. I'm putting out 4 stories across 2 issues, and I'm like, you don't want it to go, well, here's 3 really great stories, and this one is just kind of awful and fills space. You're challenging yourself of like, I want these to be of a high enough quality that whoever's paying for it is getting their investment worth, essentially.
Yeah, no, of course. I think, yeah, I don't know. I feel like I don't really have an answer for that because I do try to write something that I would like to read.
Yeah.
So the first part of that is that it has some degree of quality, if that can be defined, but at least what I would consider quality. Other people might read it and be like, well, this is not for me. I don't like this. But, I think that, I don't know, I'm getting better at this, but the first stories that I wrote, I actually wrote way too many drafts because I would write a story and I would like, okay, this is going in the right direction, but it's not the right thing.
Yeah.
Yeah, I mean, the story that I mentioned that I actually that had multiple artists. I wrote 8 drafts of that story
Oh wow, yeah.
before an artist even coming in. I just I was not happy with it, and I'm kind of happy with where it is now. Well, I'm actually very happy with how it is now, and the current artist Clovis is doing an amazing job with the art. It's looking gorgeous and really gritty and dark. So it's sci-fi, but it's very dark. It looks like horror almost. Again, this story is not in these 1 and 2 books. It's coming later, but yeah, it's an example where I wrote way too many drafts.
Yeah.
Because I'm looking for that, let's call it quality.
Yeah.
Yeah, the other stories were kind of the same. Yeah, I stop when I feel like the story is good enough.
Yeah.
And
do you ever feel like you
yeah,
get to a point where you're rewriting it so much that you're kind of just getting inside your own head a little bit rather than like
absolutely,
you're trying to seek
absolutely,
that perfection, and like it's just the perfection's never coming because there's always just something that can be tweaked.
absolutely. Like I said, I'm getting much better at it. I also feel like I'm committing to the outline a lot more often now. So I always outline, but I feel like now I'm getting really good at writing an outline that I'm happy with.
Yeah.
And when I jump to the writing, yeah, right now I write 1 draft or 2 and I'm like, I'm good. I'm happy with this. And I guess that comes also with the experience of knowing that the script is not the end. You're going to have the
Yeah.
artist, and there are things that are going to change. So it needs to be at the point where an artist can just take it to the next level, and you
Yeah.
don't need to have a perfect script. So I think it comes from there. But yeah, that perfectionism does exist, and it used to be much worse.
Yeah. I think that's it. It's a hard thing to find the balance of that because you obviously want to give the best of everything, and if something doesn't feel quite right, you're like, I know I can make it better. But at the same time, sometimes you just have to let it go. Like, it's not going to be what you always imagined it to be. Sometimes you have to just let it evolve and change. Like, I know it's a slightly different scenario. I've not really got experience of writing comics, but from our D&D campaign that I DM'd, like it's, which we are turning into a comic book now, but like as that story evolved, like from where I had plans for that story to go in chapter 1 when we began it to where we were by the end, I'm like, this is a totally different story in a lot of ways. It's so different looking now. It's so completely evolved into something that I could never have thought it being. And like, and
Yeah.
you have to almost like
No, go ahead.
grieve certain things because you're like, I really wanted this to be part of it, and you're like, but it doesn't make sense anymore. But at the same time, you're opened up to all these new possibilities of like, wait, there's new stories here, there's new elements here to include. And I imagine it's very similar to writing a comic, especially like you said, working with an artist as well, where it's like what you're writing depends on what the artist is able to do, willing to do, capable of doing, and then they might even do stuff that you're like, I never thought of that, I never planned that. So I can imagine it's a strenuous process.
Yeah, I mean, I would say probably the D&D campaign has like a different element there, which is like the players.
Oh yeah,
So,
that's a whole other thing in itself.
yeah, I mean, you can plan all you want, and the players will just go to the one thing that you did not think about.
Every time, every single
Yeah,
time.
but but yeah, I do see what you're saying, and I guess again, it's getting better at it and being more, I don't know, trusting that it's going to work in the end. It's that understanding that the artist is going to elevate a lot of the stuff and it's going to question what you wrote, and a lot of the things are going to get better, others you're just going to discuss and find a compromise. And I don't know, I there are definitely things that I'm like, that you go around in circles and that it doesn't make sense. The way that I kind of started getting around that, and I'm not saying I'm good at it, is I started convincing myself of, okay, it's a good idea, but it doesn't belong in that story. I can use it in another story.
Mm-hmm.
That never comes. You're never going to use it in another story. but I try to convince myself that I will. It's like it's not a waste. I'm going to use it. But yeah, it kind of, I don't know, it helps me give myself permission to, you know what, it doesn't belong here. Let's just
Yeah.
save it for later, put it in the bin.
It is. It's like
um,
if it helps you create that with the story, even if that other story never comes where you get to use it, it's like it's if it helps you kind of do that, because sometimes yeah, you do need to like I just need to trim this off because this doesn't fit anymore. As much as I love it, and it's like could be the best idea ever, and I'm like it doesn't fit this story though, and yeah, that can be
yeah,
that could be a struggle sometimes.
I think it was Darren Aronofsky who said that your film is not complete until you cut your favorite shot,
Oh,
which is like, oh, that hurts.
I was going to say that's a painful one. That's a painful quote.
That hurts a lot. Yeah, it's like it's on point, but I totally get it. Yeah.
No,
um,
absolutely, absolutely. Hey there, Geek Collective. Did you know that Geeks Plus is also on Patreon? For as little as just $2 a month, you can also support us over on Patreon and get early access to all of our YouTube videos from Geeks Plus Comics, Geeks Plus Tabletop, and Geeks Plus Gaming, as well as a whole bunch of exclusive content specifically for our supporters over on Patreon, and early access to all the behind the scenes and ongoings with the company. So if you would like to check out all of that stuff and help support what we do here at Geeks Plus, we would greatly appreciate heading over to patreon.com/geeksplusmedia and supporting us over there. But that's all from me from now. You all have a good day, and let's get back into your video. Um, so I do want to kind of move into actually looking a little bit at the stories. Obviously, I don't want to give away too much of the stories. I want people to go and check out and back the Kickstarter so that they can see it. But I want to at least delve into some of these because some of these stories are they're really interesting and really unique stories, and a lot of them, if not all of them, have like little twists to the end that you're not quite expecting, or little not even necessarily twists to the story, but just little kind of shifts that you're not quite expecting for some of them. And it's like it's a really intriguing set of story you've put together here. Uh,
Thank you.
and of course, you start off like very, calm and chill by kicking off the very first issue with a story of a guy getting a diagnosis that he's got a cancer that can't be cured. Starting off on a nice happy note there, Bruno. It's like
Yeah, I
kick
mean,
off the first issue.
you know me.
Um, so yeah, what was the inspiration behind this one? I think it's Finite. This story was called. Like, what was the inspiration between telling this story? And again, as I
Uh,
said prior to we started, tell as much or as little as you want here. I don't want to give away too much if you want them to go and check it out. But just to give us a little taster of like, where was the idea behind this one?
oh, I actually don't remember what was the idea, so I can tell you what made me write it.
Okay.
Um, so this was the first comic book story that I ever wrote,
Mm.
and that was oh, I think it was yeah, I think it was you had Neil Gibson in your show before, right?
Yeah, yeah. We had Neil on.
Yeah, yeah. We talked about it last time.
Mm-hmm.
So yeah, I went to a Comic Con. Neil was basically just having like a workshop about writing comics, and I went to that. And at the end, he just said, "Hey, just write your comic, to everyone, and send me a 4-page comic, and I'll read it." So, and I did. I sent a 4-page comic. He read it. He liked it. He gave me, uh, some really good notes as well. And that was a 4-page comic. I mean, this is a little bit expanded,
Yeah.
but it's still kind of the same idea. And that's really how it started. Is that I wrote that comic and I was like, oh, this is actually cool. You can do a lot with comics, and it's actually fun to write. So yeah, that was it. It was really meeting Neil, and he kind of just pushed me to write, and I wrote that, and that was it really. Where the
That's
idea came
awesome.
from, I don't know. I like sci-fi that says something, that's not just, I don't know. I'm not going to say that I don't like Star Wars. I do, but it's it's very much what you get, right? It's like it's and I do like something more like, I don't know, Twilight Zone and
Yeah.
uh, Black Mirror, that has like some sort of commentary that can be social or can be something else.
No,
Just
I
leaves you
absolutely get that.
thinking.
Yeah, I absolutely get that. I love that sort of stuff as well. So yeah, I totally get you on that.
Yeah. So, and like I said, I want to write the things that I want to read, uh, which is not great because it's probably not the most, I don't know, commercial thing or the thing that people are the most interested about usually. But it's what I like, so I'll just write that
Yeah.
really, and
Well, that's it. If you don't
audience
like
will
this,
decide.
if you don't like your story, why do you expect anyone else to like it? If you're writing something you enjoy, it's like, if I don't like what I'm
Exactly,
writing, why would anyone else like what I'm writing? Write something you enjoy.
exactly that. Yeah, exactly that. So it's kind of that. I just had like this. I don't know where the idea came from. It just, just had like this idea of putting, without giving anything away, to kind of just put two different elements against each other and say something about humanity as a whole.
Yeah, there's a really big social commentary kind of like in the final bit of the page, like of that story, which I was not expecting. I didn't see that coming at the end when I first read it, and it was, I want to so talk about it, so I might talk to you a bit after the podcast about that one. But
Sure.
I'm like, I don't want to give anything away for it, but like it takes a really interesting twist of this really serious cancer diagnosis in this guy, which is something a lot of people unfortunately can relate to. They've had either gone through it themselves or they've had family members or friends or whatever go through it. And then it takes this thing and like just dials it up to what does that mean for the human race and our place in the universe and stuff like that. And it was something I didn't see coming when I was reading it. I wasn't expecting, but when I read it, I'm like, oh, that's good. Like it was one of those things where it just clicked of like, no, that makes sense. That fits perfectly of like that kind of paralleled story in that way. So it was a really interesting read and really well done, and is a hell of a way to kick off the series. It was a
Okay.
really awesome way to kind of kick it off. I felt like I really enjoyed it for that little. I feel like that first story sets up what you're in for. Like this is the vibe of like what's to come. Kind of like when I was like you said, like watching an episode of early Twilight Zone or early Black Mirror or stuff. This is kind of like, okay, this is the type of world you're walking into.
Yeah, I guess that's it. Yeah, I think tonally it's very much what I would like the series to be. Yeah. And yeah, I mean, if you want to talk about the thing, it's probably not here because
Yeah,
it's very spoilery.
yeah, I don't want to give it
Uh,
away because it's an awesome thing. I want people to experience reading for themselves and to pick up the comic for themselves. Maybe once the Kickstarter's all done, I'll have a rant about it and do a comic review of Cinematic Figments, so I can delve into it a little bit. But
Thank you.
but yeah, it was definitely a way to set it up. Um,
Yeah.
and then it completely changes gears going into the second issue. The second issue is very different because it feels like this. The first story is this very kind of contained story, and then it has this kind of like universal commentary at the end of it. In the second story, we switch and you really do feel the switch, kind of like we were talking about with the artist. Like that first story is very realistic type of art, very almost like painted kind of feel to the artwork on it. And then in the next
It's
issue, we're
literally.
into more of a classic, typical kind of comic look to it, with a completely different story of this arrogant scientist who it's not spoilers to say, but at the very beginning he's like, I've cracked the code for time travel. I've did it. And it's like, and I love even the display of his arrogance at the beginning, because as that voiceover's happening, you see the person getting into the pod, and he's like, no, not them. Not that person. It's like me who's overseeing all of this. Me. I did this. It was all me. And really playing into his arrogance on the situation. And it's clear that he's got no love nor respect for anyone he works with. Like he's one of those arrogance of like, everyone I work with's an idiot and are completely useless and not doing anything correct. Which unfortunately again is another one of those things that probably resonates with a lot of people, because I've definitely worked with people like that and they are definitely assholes to that level. Um, so what was the idea behind this story? Did you get an idea of this, or what was the inspiration for this, or Did you just think, I just want to play with time travel mechanics a little bit with this? And
Uh, I guess the idea started there. I get the so yeah. I mean, not going too much also into spoilers, but yeah, the idea that when you have time travel, there's other things that you need to kind of think about,
yeah,
and I kind of wanted to. I guess it's exploring that arrogance of someone who, um, I don't know, the tech genius sort of thing that it's like that is very good but does not admit when someone else has contributions, or
mm-hmm.
it's like all the successes are mine or all the failures are from everybody else.
Yeah,
So it was very much kind of that character. I kind of wanted to have like I don't know, unlikable character, but at the same time maybe, I don't know, give him some relatability. I don't know if I managed to do that, but
I would say so, because I think we've all been on his shoes as well, because one of the big things he's so arrogant and pissed off about is he feels like he's the guy doing all the work. Like all the breakthrough work. Everyone else is messing about doing stuff. I'm doing all the work. And for some reason, I keep getting passed over for this promotion I want. And they keep telling me because I don't have an eye for detail. And he's like, but I've done this and I've done this and I've been around here. And he even says to his boss, I've got like 10 years experience over anyone else in the company. And it's like, I think we've all had jobs like that as well, or at least most people have had jobs like that as well, where it's like you're in a completely thankless job where it's like, it's like you don't feel like you're getting the respect or the kind of commendation that you think I should be getting, even if it's not necessarily getting a promotion. It's I'm not being recognized for what I am doing and what
value.
I'm capable of. Yeah, I'm not valued by this company. Everyone has worked with a company that hasn't valued them, unless you're like super lucky. Everyone's had at least one company where that's been their what they've experienced.
Yeah, and I think here it was kind of playing with those elements of, yeah, he's not valued, but also he's a fucking asshole.
Yes. Oh,
He's a massive
100%.
asshole.
100%. Because that's it. Like, there's the
Yeah,
relatability to it, but I'm like, at the same time, I'm like, he's relatable, but not redeemable. He's like, you like, I don't care for anything that you're doing. And it's like, I can't feel sorry for you being overlooked because you're such an asshole. I can't feel
yeah. There's
sorry for you in any way.
yeah, there's definitely a couple of things that I really struggled if I wanted to actually write it, because it was like, this is a bit much. I mean, the character would totally say this, but this is a bit much.
Yeah.
Um, and yeah, that was a tough one. I guess it's, yeah, I definitely wanted to play with time travel, and I I like the idea of, so time travel usually in films and media, it's usually the same thing,
Mm-hmm.
and he actually talks about it of in films usually you see this thing happen and this is not it.
Yeah.
So yeah, I kind of wanted to do something a little bit different, but then bring it all back to, how do I say this without spoiling it? uh, yeah, bring it all back to the his goals and
Yeah,
what
you're
he's
bringing
trying to
it
do, but also
you're bringing it back to his arrogance, and like we talked about, like him overlooking other people's stuff, and because of like, no, I'm better than them. And not to spoil what happens, but essentially that mistake he refuses to look at ends up causing trouble, and that he could have foreseen if he just stopped and actually taken someone else into account. And it's like, it's a really awesome story. And it's funny you mentioning something like Twilight Zone and Black Mirror, because the way it wraps up gives me that very much that same feeling at the end of one of those sort of things. One of those shows is like, and I want to say so badly what it is to like explain that, because if you've not read it, it's like you'd be like, what the hell is he talking about? But like, trust me, it's like, it's a the ending of that second story is probably my favorite ending. Like, just because of the way it plays out. Like, it's one of those, like, I love darker endings to stuff, and there's definitely elements of that there, and I'm like, yeah, this was good. I
okay.
thoroughly enjoyed that one. So like I think you definitely hit the nail on the head with it.
Oh,
That
thank
you've
you. Yeah.
definitely got like a relatability to it and relatability to the character, but at the same time, it's like it's almost like horror movie stuff of like that. It's like even if you relate to the character, you're like, I kind of want to see you get your comeuppance sort of thing because like you are that big of an asshole. It's like I want to see this not work out for you.
Yeah, and I mean, it's not just relatability with that character. It's also really relatability with the characters around him, really, because again, we probably all been in
Oh
that
yeah,
situation of
absolutely,
yeah,
absolutely we have. I guarantee it.
having the lines. Yeah.
But to switch gears then again, going into issue 2, we switch again to completely different story. Um, the first story goes back to that. I think it's a Parasite. It's called, or
Parasites, yeah.
yeah, and it's like it goes back to that realistic kind of painted feeling art style to it. But it's like the art style's even a little bit different again because it's that painted art style, but it's a little bit more chaotic, a little bit more messy. Like you can see what's happening, but it feels a bit more. It's almost like one of those paintings where it gets wavy around the edges and stuff's just almost starting to get out of focus. It's which of course plays into it all, but the whole thing is it's an alien invasion. And these aliens come down to Earth but they're not trying to take over. In fact, they're not even doing anything to most humans. There's only certain humans they're hunting, and it's because these certain humans are a food source. Um and it was a really, and I don't want to say too much about this one because the way this story goes is like I more than any other I couldn't have predicted where it was going when I first read it. Like it takes an interesting turn, I'll just say that. But what was the kind of inspiration behind this story? Because this one was like, this is probably the most unique of the four.
Okay, that's good to hear.
It's probably the
Um,
most unique just because of where the story goes. And again, this is one I don't want to spoil, but it's going to be hard to fully delve into without spoiling. But like, what were some inspirations behind this one?
I mean, inspirations usually can come from, anywhere. This one, I originally wanted to write it as a short film. This is one of those that I was like, this would be a really awesome short film, but then
Mm-hmm.
how do I make the aliens? How do I make, those big ass needles that the guys have? It looks like, almost like cells, from Dragon Ball, the
Yeah.
that thing. Yeah. Um yeah, and there's actually a drawing that Samuel did that didn't make into the comic because in the story it doesn't really make sense, but visually it's gorgeous. Where it's just like with not the hand, but that spike kind of just threatening. It's just gorgeous. I
Yeah.
need to do something with that image because it looks great. Um, but yeah, I mean the inspiration was really. Uh, it's really tough this one because I'm basically giving away the ending. I mean, it's a story about aliens that's not about aliens. Let's put it like that.
Yeah.
It's I wanted to comment on the way that society kind of treats a group of people. Let's put it like that. Um, and yeah, maybe how we leave them to their own in that situation.
Yeah.
And which is tough because it's one of those that people are not going to get help unless they want to. So but yeah, I kind of wanted to comment on something that happens quite a lot in society, but using sci-fi, and I thought aliens was a good idea. And blood-sucking aliens that look very ugly and terrifying was probably a good idea. And I had no idea how the aliens were going to look when I first did it, other than just did it had the need. And then Samuel just created like that really, yeah, that the texture of the skin of the aliens is just
Yeah.
Yeah,
He
it's
he
just
did an
gorgeous.
amazing
It's
job
just
with those. Like the designs of those aliens are really really cool. They're
yeah,
really well designed, and they definitely, again, this one kind of, like I said it before and other stuff, like it's almost like the aliens almost have a horror element to them. Like these are like properly like freaky and scary looking aliens. Like they're made to look like villains. They're made to look like these horrific monsters, and to give that sort of vibe off to them. And he did a phenomenal job with the artwork on it. He really did.
yeah, it's gorgeous. It's like this very realistic artwork that he had done it in another project we did together, but this one is much more sci-fi, much more, unrealistic, and I don't know. It really works for the. So the experience I had from the previous book I did with him is that the style doesn't resonate with everyone because it's so realistic. It's off-putting for some people,
Yeah.
but I personally love it. It's like this. Yeah, it really makes it different. It looks very realistic, very. Even there are landscapes of London that look like very much like a photo,
Mm.
and it's not. It's just fully is art. Um, but yeah, I think that level of realism really works for the story because it's despite the aliens, despite all the sci-fi elements, is actually kind of a very real
Yeah.
story. If that makes sense. So yeah, I think it worked in that way.
No. I think it definitely did, and I know you kind of said, and we kind of talked about, like there's definitely commentary to the comics that you've included for the stories that you've included in these. Like they've all got meanings and purpose behind them. None of them are just like fun sci-fi stories. They've all got a purpose to telling them.
You're saying none of the stories are fun. I'm kidding.
Not at all. But this one definitely hits home harder. This one is definitely a case of like it feels more real, like in the message that it's bringing across, more so than the others. Like other stuff you can relate to and you're going through, and there's great commentary in some of the others, but this one like is really just hits home, because like even like the full thing isn't fully laid out until you get even to like that last panel. Like you can maybe guess and kind of get there halfway through if you're kind of putting pieces together, but you don't get the confirmation until that very last shot. And it just kind of sticks with you. And I think the hyper realistic art adds to it as well, because it's kind of like the same with like the first story with Finite. It's like the hyper realism in both of those adds to what is a very real thing. You're dealing with real stuff. Like, with the second story, like dealing with an asshole at work, it's something we all relate to, but it's not like world ending stuff. But the other ones, like it almost forces you to accept it in a real world setting. Like this is what the allegory is for it, and it's like I think it definitely adds to it. So it was phenomenal. Like this one, like definitely was the one that caught me off guard. I wasn't expecting it to go the way it did. But yeah, absolutely loved it as well.
That's good to hear.
Uh, and then of course, no sci-fi story anthology would be done without the final story in these two issues, which is which was a sci-fi book without an existential crisis. You know, to wrap us all up, we've dealt with cancer, we've dealt with alien invasions, we've dealt with assholes at work. So how about a feeling of loneliness and existential crisis as we wrap up the second book? Because that's what you get from Infinite. The final story is one massive existential crisis and philosophical debate being had by the one guy who's left on this ship dealing with the thoughts, which is just absolutely awesome. Of like, because it's like there's almost a level of going mad for him in this story, but at the same time, you're like, no, these thoughts would cross your mind.
Mhm.
Because the whole story is like this guy is on a spaceship that's traveling faster than light, like so fast, which had the mission and the goal to of like there's only two real questions: how did everything begin, and how far does the universe go? but he started the journey, like you find out, with his father, and like in the course of this journey his father has died, and now he's a man on a ship traveling, but he's now starting to be plagued with all the questions like, I've been traveling for so long, shouldn't I have reached it by now? Shouldn't I have gotten to where I was going? Like, what if there isn't an end to the universe? What if there's not a beginning of the universe? What if it's just always be like, and you can almost feel his madness sinking in as he like debates these things with himself. I'm like, why am I still doing this? Why am I still here traveling alone on this ship now? Which is like, it's a really great thought-provoking story to think about that, because there's almost a great, because I think it's in issue 1, there's kind of a comparison of, I think it's during the cancer story, of like religion with science, because the fact of like, you get diagnosed with cancer and he's like, well, do you want to speak to a priest and stuff? Well, there's no God there to hear my diagnosis, which is something that a lot of people go through. They get in a place where something awful happens. Some people turn to God, and some people are like, well, there's clearly no God because this has happened to me. So, but in this one, it's like a completely different side of it, where it's like, it's almost a challenge of science as the new religion, because you have to have faith that the science is correct for it to work. And brings up a great point, which I've talked to people about before, which, you know, because it's always thought sort of crossed my mind of like, how do we know the science is right? How do we know we got the science right? Well, you have to have faith, because like, how do you know how the universe started, like with the Big Bang and stuff? Well, this is what the science says. And I'm like, but you're analysing something that happened so long ago based on science that we are assuming is right. How do you know? And it's almost this existential crisis of like, is there as much faith in science as there is in religion? Is there as much belief in it as there is in religion? Which I thought was a really great little commentary of like, at their heart, they're not that dissimilar to one another in a lot of ways. I mean, you know, it's like, it's, but yeah, so what was the kind of, where did this story come from? And were you just like, I'm going to explore some existential crisis, I'm going to explore some of these themes, or was it something completely different? I just want to talk about a guy on a ship and see where it goes, you know?
Maybe I was having an existential crisis when I did that. No, I mean, it's not going to surprise you that this story, it's really insane, because it was, I woke up one day, and you know when you wake up and you have like these feelings from dreams, but you don't really know, you don't really remember what you dreamed about.
Yeah.
And pretty much the entire of the voiceover, the captions, was written after I woke up.
Oh,
And I was
wow.
like, I had like, it was weird. It was really weird. It was one of those, I woke up, I had like this thing in my head. I wrote it down. Obviously, I kind of, work it up into a story and,
Yeah.
tighten it up and all of that. But I had like this stream of consciousness that is, that kind of created like just this monologue. And after that, I was like, okay, how do I make a story with this? So when you say existential crisis, I'm like, yeah, maybe that probably makes sense. I don't know if I was having, this was so long ago that maybe I was having an existential crisis then.
I mean, it's very possible, because that's definitely the vibe I got from it. Because it's a guy who's basically, his main thing is like, I'm so lonely, I'm so alone here,
Okay.
and he starts debating like all the stuff that he's gone through and believed, and it's like, no, yeah, he's definitely, he's at existential crisis level of like, I'm now questioning everything I've ever experienced, like leading up to this ship, all this travel on here. I'm now bringing everything into question, because why wouldn't you? He's still traveling. I'm like, he can't stop, he can't pull over, he can't land on another planet. He's just stuck traveling until he reaches his goal, which he's now coming to terms with. Like, what if I never reach it? What if it just doesn't stop? And I'm like, wow, that just it gets super heavy when you think of that. I'm like, whoa, that's like that deep level
Yeah.
thinking of what do you do with that information?
Yeah. I mean, it's the whole, let's say that you're traveling to a new colony of, I don't know, a new planet, and you're under hibernation and you wake up, right? And there's a long time to get there, and you're going to die, while you're getting there. So you're never going to get there, right? It's like, I don't know, I guess it's like that pointlessness of, you know, why am I here? Or yeah, it's, I don't know, I can't explain it. It really was like this stream of consciousness that just came, and I just thought this could do a really good story if I can figure out how to.
Yeah, and I think honestly with this one, this is one that really stood out to me as well because it's perfect for the length it is because it really does leave you with so many more questions. It leaves you with a lot of stuff because you start to ask the questions yourself as well. Like, okay, he's been traveling for this long, and it's like, what if he never gets there? Or even like, what if he does find it? What if he finds the beginning of the universe or the edge of the universe or whatever the hell it's heading towards? It's like, okay, he's found it. What now? He's now alone at the edge of the universe or at the beginning of the. It's not like he can tell anyone. It's not like he can report
Yeah.
what he's found. He's like, I think at one point he says that if you see my ship like traveling past your planet, by the time you've seen it, is I'm already been gone for like hundreds of thousands of years, and I'm like, I think that just broke my brain. Just
It's
like
a
thinking
scary thought.
about
Yeah.
that. I'm like, wow, that is so trippy to think of. I'm like, that's crazy, and I'm like, so it's like there is that level of what is the purpose, but at the same time, why does he keep going? Because it's the only purpose he's got is to keep going. Like I don't have anything else. Otherwise, I really am in a pointless existence if I don't keep going towards it. So it's almost like a catch-22 of like that. It's like I'm in a pointless existence traveling to a place I might never reach, but I'm in a pointless existence if I decide to stop because what do I do then? It's like it's a really, I love stuff like that really challenges the mind to kind of think and process. And I think you definitely did that with Infinite. It definitely broke my brain. And I read that story a couple of times, like with gaps in between. Like I came back and read it before talking to you today, and I'm like, it still broke my brain the second time, even when I knew it was coming. It's like this is it's like this is a like I don't need to be thinking this deeply right now. This is like the quandaries of the universe.
Oh
But
man, I mean, I'll be honest. I actually like to hear that because, in a weird way, that's kind of what I was going for.
well, when it comes to me, at the very least, you succeeded, Bruno. Absolutely succeeded when it came to me. I don't know if anyone else will get that experience, but you broke me when I was reading it, and I'm like,
I mean, there's still like a bit of a surprise. I don't know if you picked up on the end, like the last panel.
mm-hmm.
Uh, what that means. The last panel, what is kind of, yeah.
Yeah,
I mean, I'm not going to get into that. Yeah, it's
yeah. Not gonna get into it now because we don't want to give anything away. But like by the end of it, it's kind of like, yeah, kind of like getting a little vibe from it of it's going in an interesting direction. And the
okay. Okay.
and I'm like, so I definitely another one I'll talk to you off camera about just because I want to delve into it a little bit, but yeah, it's all of these stories I think were really intriguing and really challenging,
No, thank you.
and
Yeah, I mean,
I think you definitely nailed when you said like the kind of like the Twilight Zone vibe for it. Like I think that definitely hit it because kind of like something like that, like the Twilight Zone, Outer Limits, something like that. Because it's maybe not as dark as stuff in like Black Mirror, but like in something like Twilight Zone, it's something that's just challenging enough in the short length that it is to get a point across if you're trying to get a point across, but it also leaves the person thinking and processing and like, what do you think on the situation? How do you process this information? And some of the stories are a lot more straightforward, like this is what it is. And some of the others are
mhm.
like you're left kind of like just mulling it over, just chewing the cud a little bit and just thinking it over. And I'm like, so I think it definitely has that Twilight Zone vibe to
Yeah, that's good to hear. And the
it.
part that it's giving existential crisis to a
Yeah.
reader, which
Hey, not a bad thing. I'm all for it, man. I just wasn't expecting it in that last story. like, um,
let's end with something fun. Oh no.
this is a fun story. Oh no. Oh no. This is getting deep. Okay. Here we go. Um, but I think like it just kind of came to my mind there. But yeah, I would definitely consider it like a Twilight Zone. Like we mentioned Neil Gibson earlier on, and kind of the inspiration he was in helping you start. Like if you take something like his Twisted Dark books, that's like, I would say that's like Black Mirror, where yours is Outer Limits. His are a lot more darker and don't have happy endings typically. Yours are a lot more obviously sci-fi focused, not as horror focused, and a lot more open-ended in a way of like at least people thinking, what do you think on this and what happens? And there could technically be an ending to the story, but like also like you might not be going in that direction. It's like, what do you think, you know? So at least that's the way it's playing in my head when I'm thinking of comparison. I'm like, that would definitely be how I would kind of lay it out to someone. If you want something more that style, this is definitely up your alley. I don't think it's you know, breaking any surprises to say I thoroughly enjoyed Cinematic Figments. I thought it was a really great couple of books, and these couple of issues were really enjoyable. I always love good sci-fi stories, and I think these are definitely some really good science fiction stories to kind of get your teeth into. And it's not your typical, like we said, sci-fi people tend to go to like the space battles and Star Wars and all that, and it's like it's really cool to get some sci-fi that's a lot more challenging and thought-provoking and kind of presents you with a little bit of a twist on what's going on.
Weird.
Weird. Nothing wrong with weird. I love weird. But you said as well, so this is the first 2 issues, and there's definitely a 3rd issue in the works.
There's a 4th issue in the works.
And a 4th issue in the works. That's what I was going to ask, because you kind of said about like, you know, having a book set of it that was going to come out as one thing, and I'm like, is this going to be like there's an end to Cinematic Figments, or is this going to be like, if you keep coming up with short story ideas, we could get Cinematic Figments 4 and 5 and 6. If the ideas eventually keep coming, this could just be an ongoing series you return to.
That's kind of the idea, really. It's yeah. So I have one other story already finished. It's a really short story for people who are in my newsletter. You actually get it for free.
Oh, nice.
In the digital format. It has a weird social commentary as well, as obviously, and the one that I mentioned that had a few different artists. That's really probably the darkest one. It's dark. That gets dark. Messed up dark. So that should be in issue 3, and for issue 4 I have Donna Anita Black is she did a couple of covers from some of my projects, and she has this very surrealistic style. She's doing she's doing a story that is maybe a little bit more, it's sci-fi, but it's maybe a little bit more emotional. And it does get into, I don't know, mental health and stuff like that, but through sci-fi, and I think it's a heavy story. So yeah, but it's still kind of sci-fi and the same vibe, just very surreal in terms of the art.
Awesome.
So weird shit. This series is just weird shit. That's it.
That honestly, that's probably why I love it. Because I love stuff like that. I love the bizarre and the weird and the, you know, I love stuff that's just that little bit off kilter, and I'm like, that's right up my alley. So I absolutely love this. And of course when this is dropping, which should hopefully be the day after we're recording this, if everything goes to plan. So the Kickstarter is live for issues 1 and 2 right now. I'll make sure to put the link down below for that, so people can go and check out Cinematic Figments. And it's not fully funded yet, I don't believe. It's still gaining. So
41%, I think.
So we've still got a little bit of time on this. We've still got a good bit of time to get some money in for it. So let's see if we can help get Cinematic Figments. If you're into crazy, weird science fiction stories and stuff that's very Twilight Zone, Outer Limits, bit of Black Mirror, that sort of style of anthology stories, then trust me, this is right up your alley. I know we've not been able to go fully into the stories and discuss them, Maybe I'll get Bruno back on and we can talk him in depth once the campaign's done. And we can actually go into the stories a bit more and talk about the endings of them for the channel, because I would love to discuss in depth for him. I'm probably going to pick his brain a little bit after we're done recording, to be honest. To kind of like, okay, I need these answers. I can't put them on the channel, but I need the answers myself. But I think, yeah, once the campaign's done for this, like for maybe next month, I think I'm going to do some reviews for Scientific Figments as well, and just talk about them on the channel, because like I really did. I thoroughly enjoyed these stories. And if anyone knows me, you know I'm not much of a blow smoke up someone's ass for stuff. So like I'm definitely not just bigging up Bruno because he's here. I thoroughly did like these. These were all really intriguing stories, and I loved the social commentary in them. I loved the little twists and turns that I wasn't expecting, and I think he did an amazing job with them. And kudos to the artists that worked with him as well, because they all did phenomenal. I'm going to put the creative teams down below, which will be Bruno is the writer for all of the stories, but I'll put down who done what for art, colouring, lettering, anything like that for each of the stories down below, because I want to make sure I highlight each of the amazing creators on this, because getting a bunch of creators together for a book like this is not easy. But
yeah, and the stories work really because of the art, because yeah, like you said, the art sells it. The ones where the realism sells it, and others is in the last story, Infinite, Erwin's style is just gorgeous, and it just fits the story perfectly. It's just epic. So yeah, the artists here are really help sell the whole thing.
No, absolutely. You found some amazing artists, and it's awesome to see like you getting some new people in to work with, and even for upcoming stories and stuff, getting people you've worked with before. And it's really awesome to see them being showcased like this, because the art in each of the books is amazing. Each of the stories has amazing artwork for it, so they've done an amazing job. And so have you, Bruno. This has been an absolute pleasure to get you on talking about Scinematic Figments and getting you to talk about these stories a little bit more. It's been an absolute pleasure, sir. We're hitting at about an hour, but is there anything else that you want to talk about? Anything else you want to mention to anybody before we wrap up for today?
No, I mean, just if you like weird shit, just go to the Kickstarter page, Cinematic Figments with an S, and find we have 4 covers, 2 for each. Find the one you like the most, or get them all, and
Why not? Why not? You're comic collectors. You know you want them all.
Exactly.
That's what we do. Covers. That's what we do. We want all the covers because we collect comics. That's what we do.
So yeah, that's it. Just look for it, and if you like it, just back it, and that's it.
Absolutely. If you're seeing this video on YouTube and stuff, do me a favor and please share it on social media as well as the Kickstarter on there. Get the word out for this amazing stuff. I will put the Kickstarter link down below in the info section, along with all of Bruno's social media links, his newsletter link, all that sort of stuff I will put down below. So please go and check out his stuff and go and check out the amazing creators that he worked with. But Bruno, thank you so much for coming on and talking with me. This has been absolute pleasure again, sir. And I look forward to hopefully talking to you again about some more stuff coming out, especially when we get to Scinematic Figments 3. I'm definitely going to get you back in to talk about that. I'm excited.
Thank you for having me. This was really fun.
Thank you so much, everyone, for hanging out with us today. Hope you all have an amazing week, and remember, it's a good week to be a geek. Take care. We'll see you all next time. Peace.